Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Protocol Pegasus here, bringing it back to you guys in Remnant from the Ashes, and today we'll be taking a look at my all-new build on the Burning Crusader. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the secondary weapon I am utilizing is called the Spitfire. The Spitfire is going to be a full automatic weapon which shoots searing bullets that deal fire damage with medium accuracy and a high fire rate. From there, I'm using the flamethrower mod attached onto this because it's a non-removable mod. But basically what this allows me to do is it spews flames that will ignite targets with the burning effect, dealing 301 fire damage over 10 seconds. And then I'm using the Alternator. The Alternator is the primary weapon for this build. It's an accurate full automatic rifle with cryo-based rounds that deal frost damage with a fast fire rate and medium magazine capacity, which is awesome. From there, I'm using the Incinerator Weapon Mod, which spews 11 fireballs that deal 45 fire damage within 2 meters, and each ignites enemies with the burning effect, dealing 301 fire damage over 10 seconds. Really, really nice weapon. From there, this is a non-removable mod as well. I am using, for my melee, I'm using the Smolder. The Smolder has the Blaze effect, which basically every time you charge your attacks, it applies burning effect, which deals 300 fire damage over the course of 10 seconds. Basically, it is a Scorched Blade imbued with fire that is very quick, versatile, and suited for almost any situation. Exiles at controlling areas with wide arcing swings and fast recovery. It is a very nice, well-rounded weapon overall. Plus, it has a pretty big hitbox. Now for my armor, it gets a little weird here. I am using one hooded set, which is the Twisted Hood set. From there, this will basically give me health regeneration by 0.334. From there, it will also give me a slight damage boost if I do happen to stack it over time. I don't really care as much for the damage boost, but it's nice that it's there. We're really looking at this for the health regeneration. Then I'm using the Oasis set. I probably pronounced that wrong. Let me know down below in the comment section. From there, this increases my melee speed and my fire rate by 5%, and also increases my damage output by 20%, just because I have two pieces as of here. So I have one for the chest and one for the leggings. From there, I'm using the charcoal necklace. Basically what this does is it increases fire damage from all sources by 15% and burning damage by 50%. So this ties into my Spitfire because my Spitfire automatically does fire damage, and when I'm using the flamethrower, it will increase the damage output of that. And then on the Alternator mod for the Incinerator, for the Incinerator, it will also increase the burning damage and the fire damage that's coming off of that as well, which is really, really nice. And then of course for Smolder, same thing. It's also going to increase the fire damage off of that as well. So all these weapons get benefit procs from this necklace alone, and it's a pretty big damage increase. From there, I'm using two healing rings. I'm using Blood Font, which increases health regeneration by 0.718, and then from there, it also increases all healing efficiency by 15%. From there, I'm using Eslan's Band. This increases health by 25 and my health regeneration by 0.512 per second. Excuse me there. All these guys will happen to stack. So with the Twisted Hood, the Blood Font, and Eslan's Bend, it all stacks together and accumulates to a really well-rounded, really nice self-sustained build with a lot of potential fire rate. No pun intended. From there, if I scroll down over into the traits tab here, one of the main traits, well, three main traits I would definitely recommend for this build is going to be as followed: the Tormentor, the Demolitionist, and Wisdom. Basically, this will all have to do with the elemental damage proc coming off of your weapon. From there, once you end up applying that fire damage onto your target, Tormentor will allow it to stay longer on your target. Demolitionist will basically give you the added damage bonus when you happen to use your Incinerator mod off your Alternator. And from there, Wisdom will just basically work for any weapon you happen to be using, whether it's a Spitfire, Alternator, or Smolder. So from there, they work really well. Now, I am a big fan of utilizing every trait within the course of my builds, just because at the end of the day, I do think that every trait will allow you to be a little bit more versatile, a little bit more adaptable, and from there you'll be able to be pretty much prepared for any given situation you are thrown into. And since this game doesn't have a level cap, I highly recommend it. So of course, going about doing the traits is entirely up to you, but those are the three that I would probably focus on right off the bat if you're looking to go about capitalizing this build. With all that being said, I'm going to cut the video here and we're going to get into some gameplay, and I'll show you how this build actually works on a higher level of difficulty such as Nightmare mode. So give me 1 sec and we'll jump right over. Alright guys, we are back here into a little bit of gameplay. We're going to jump right into it. I'm going to show you guys exactly what this build happens to entail, while going over tips, tricks, as well as guides in order to utilize this build to its fullest extent in Nightmare mode. So from there, we're actually going to do it a little differently this time around. We're going to transition over into a dungeon here, and I'm going to show you guys some more extensive gameplay to get a general idea of how this all works. So from here, you can see that I'm utilizing my weapons accordingly, just because of the fact that I am being assaulted pretty quickly by these little weedles. So I'm going to go ahead and burst them down pretty quickly with the Spitfire, and then I'm going to go ahead and proc and consumable, and then keep pushing forward, because I don't want to be applied with root rot, and I don't want to be caught out by anything else. So having multiple consumables active just makes things a little bit easier for me. From there, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to pressure everything down as fast as I can. What's really nice about this build is that you can lay on a lot of pressure just by being able to utilize the true potential of the fire that you have within the build. This will allow you to capitalize on the maximum amount of enemies you can kill in such a tight corridor space. Just because with the alternator, you can throw down the Incinerator mod and it will just explode and rapidly do damage to everything within the given area, which will then allow you to be able to clear everything out all at once, which is really, really nice. Another cool aspect with this is that you have the flamethrower to be able to back you up. So you can clearly see there that I got pressured a lot onto the enemies just because I was able to utilize the actual flamethrower in a tight corridor space. I did crouch down a little bit so that way I can be able to pressure them a little bit easier than what I would normally be able to do just standing up, just because I wanted to be in face level with them. From there, I'm going to utilize the alternator a little bit more to be able to get some distance and pressure them, just because of the fact I'm able to go about doing so with the whole fight scheme set up at the moment, just because of the fact I have the increased fire rate coming off of the armor. I noticed that I do happen to get overrun here a little bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and swap out to the sword and clear out these guys ASAP. The sword will be able to capitalize on being able to clear out the small melee guys, just because the sword has such a large hitbox for the animation, and has such a fast swing speed too, with the bonus procs I'm getting from the actual armor. So from there, I don't have to worry about getting into tight corridors, anything like that. Everything's just up front and I'm ready to go, which is really nice. And I'm also able to clear out a whole area and hold the position pretty easily because I can use the mod off the alternator and basically just lay down a wall of fire, which makes things a lot easier to be able to watch out behind me, as well as being able to position accordingly. Another thing I had noticed too while running this build is that when I come up against guys that have increased resistance or just stupid block mechanics like this guy over here, from there I was able to actually apply a lot of fire damage onto him, and it actually went through his block and his resistance, allowing me to kite around him long enough to just keep laying down status effects for the fire on him till literally he just died. So at the end of the day, it worked out really, really well. Or he just happened to get staggered to the point of where I was able to just apply more and more fire damage to him. And then from there, even if I get overrun by these guys again, even though I happen to be a little bit lower health, you can see in the bottom right hand corner I'm still slowly regenerating, just because I have so much self-sustain within the course of this build, because I'm utilizing so much self-sustain items, which makes things a lot easier. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to pick up all the ammo that you can go about seeing, and then I'm going to backpedal a little bit, and I'm actually going to go about beginning the quest within the course of this dungeon. Because if you didn't know, basically if you break one of the tombs there, then from there the boss spawns early on, and if you break all 3 tombs you get a nice chunk of EXP, but I mean you still have to fight the boss at full health, but I digress. From there, I want to make sure I cause pressure on him as fast as I can. So I want to get within close to mid-range, just because of the fact that that's really where the build's going to shine when it comes down to this. Because if you're in close to mid-range on the enemy, you'll be able to proc your fire mod a lot easier and capitalize on those tight quarters that you happen to be in within this dungeon, or just in general. Another cool thing is that because you happen to close the gap on him so quickly, you can put so much pressure on your enemy to literally, they're going to force to run at you, or they're going to force to back up. So in reality, it's really nice for you, because literally you can just storm in and pressure them, and they have no choice but to run. As long as your mods are continuously up, you'll be good to go. It does take a little bit longer to generate the mods compared to some of my other builds, such as like my Necromancer Summon build. But from there, it's still not too bad as long as you're consistently landing your shots and making consecutive damage. Then you don't have to worry about the drop off on waiting for your mods to regen or anything along those lines. You'll be pretty good regardless. So I'm going to keep pushing here throughout the course of the cavern so that way you guys get a general idea of what else I happen to come across. And then from there, I'm also going to probably run into an elite shortly, I believe. From there, I'm going to go into this corridor, and then I'm going to run into more exploders, and I'm going to keep pressuring them with the alternator. The alternator is a really good weapon. The only reason I say that you really want to be close to mid-range with this type of gun is not only for the amount of pressure you can apply, but if you're so far back, the gun drops off completely. And by drop off, I mean you can't aim the gun like whatsoever. Everything arcs and it doesn't get as accurate, and you start to miss out on a lot of shots. And this thing has a very long reload animation, so you don't want to be caught out and stuck with the fact that you can't really do too much. So you want to make sure that you're just applying pressure continuously and making sure that even if you're out of ammo on your alternator and you got to reload, swap over to Spitfire, swap over to the flamethrower, then swap back over to the Spitfire again and just keep laying down the damage. You can see here I can apply pressure onto the Shroud, and then from there he gets the 3 stacks of burning, and I can back up, heal myself, and he's still continuously taking damage as I'm proccing my consumables, getting healed, and literally he takes so much damage. All I gotta do is come in for the cleanup and I'm good to go. And then I can press over to the next room, and then from there just start clearing it out and charging up my mod with some spray and pray from the actual alternator. And then when I'm feeling super pressured on these melee guys, I can just swap out my sword and not really worry about it, because I can be able to self-sustain myself not only through the health regeneration I'm receiving with my armor, but I also can self-sustain myself from the ability of the high armor value I have with this set armor, which is nice, because even though I am able to roll pretty nicely, the armor does have pretty high armor value, so you can actually tank a few shots here and there without actually going about dying. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be as strong as like my Leto's armor set for the War Machine Gunner build. That build's an absolute beast, but from there it will be able to take a few hits, so keep that in mind when approaching this build in case you happen to get caught out or anything like that. But you can see there that I ended up catching out the Shroud, and then from there murdering him down with the fire mod just coming into play back to back to back. Then I ran into this corridor, and this elite caught me off guard completely, so I had to backpedal a little bit to make sure I got cover, because if you're playing against these elites on nightmare mode, they can be absolutely terrifying because they will immediately destroy you. From there you can also get staggered, and if you end up getting staggered by this thing, you get absolutely murdered. So I want to backpedal a little bit, make sure I have cover, and then I'm going to apply my burning effects right down on the ground so that way he walks into it, and then from there once the burning effect's in effect, he's not going to keep pushing forward. He's going to backpedal a little bit because he's taking too much damage, and then I can just really cause pressure on him. Basically, this build is fantastic for controlling the map. If you want to control where your enemy's going, what they're doing, how they respond, how they react, this build is fantastic for that. From there, I want to say this build is probably one of the more simplistic builds, but the most fun I've had doing a build in quite some time. Just because this build has high mobility, really nice self-sustain, great armor value, and at the end of the day, you can just utilize it to pretty much have a well-rounded setup. So I'm going to transition over here into a boss fight momentarily. I'm going to take some consumables, I'm going to perk up, and then from there I'm going to go ahead and walk right into this boss fight. Now this boss fight, of course, if you don't know already, is going to be the Shroud. The Shroud is basically going to have a combat bow that applies a bleeding effect onto you, and in nightmare mode it does apply a lot of different explosions, and a lot of different ads happen to come around and whatnot. At first it can be really overwhelming. What I ended up doing here is I procced all my consumables because I am playing on nightmare mode. I want to be as cautious as I possibly can, and then I jumped down and covered my bases right on the bottom. I wanted to make the bottom area my complete playground. So what I wanted to do here is I wanted to light up the entire area, and if anyone happened to come around the corner or anything like that, I lit them up. From there, I took care of the ads and just let the boss go about doing his thing, and I just continuously cleared out the ads while charging up my mods and making sure my consumables were consistently active. Once that was said and done, I just walked over to the boss, and then I started to cause pressure to him. I wanted to cause pressure as fast as I can, so I made sure my consumables were up, and I just kept pressuring him, as you can clearly see here. From there, I didn't want to go about getting hit with the actual damage. So I just made sure to back up a little bit, and then from there it was pretty good. I'm going to keep poison pressure here, and from there I'm going to keep clearing out ads. What's nice about this is too is because the burn effect is so high, you can actually apply the what's the word I'm looking for, the status effect onto your target and let them just burn over time, and you don't actually have to worry about it. It's actually really, really nice. And then from there, I'm going to keep pressuring him, and I'm going to keep clearing out these ads as I happen to see. This build is a lot of fun though, and it's really, really unique in the sense of the fact that you can just keep applying this one burning effect to every target you happen to see, and at the end of the day still capitalize on that, on damage, on survivability, on more or less like a lightweight frame while still having nice armor value. It's just really, really well rounded, and you don't end up really losing out on pretty much anything, so it is really, really nice. So as I continuously pressure him here, I make sure to back up a little bit if I happen to take any form of damage. As you can see, I do get knocked to the ground here, so from there I'm actually going to go ahead and take cover, because that one shot probably would have killed me there with the bleed effect and the base damage coming off the arrows. So I want to make sure I hide into this room, I proc my consumables, and then I keep pressuring. I don't want to get in. I don't want to rush anything because there's no rhyme or reason for me to do so. So I'm just going to keep applying my burn effects, keep charging up my mods, keep clearing out ads, and just keep rotating as continuously as I can. From there, as I continuously go about poison pressure, I just want to make sure that I'm constantly reloading too. You always want to keep it tabs on your ammo capacity as well as your health and your stamina. These are going to be the three main components you want to keep tabs on, because at the end of the day it's going to be one of those things that if you do not, you will end up seeing yourself dead right before you actually end up killing the boss, which is never a good thing, believe me. Been there too many times. From there you can see that little short interval, I was able to apply stacks upon stacks of burning damage to him, and from there it literally ended up doing so much damage. I ended up taking over half of the boss's health in that one little time frame. From there, what was also nice is because I applied all those status effects onto the boss had to run, and then all the ads ended up coming out, and then from there, since there was no boss on me, I was able to clear out the ads just fine. The boss decided to show up on me, but I knew I couldn't keep pressuring him, so I just dropped a mod onto him, and you can see that the burn damage is just ticking away, and I'm not even going to shoot him. I'm just going to focus on ads and just keep clearing him out, and from there they'll be good to go. And that's going to be it for the boss fight. Alright guys, that's going to be pretty much it for the video. If you guys have any questions, concerns, or comments, feel free to post them right down below in the comment section. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell. This will give you notifications for all my new and latest and greatest videos I happen to be uploading, as well as anytime I happen to be going live. I do some live streams off of YouTube about once a week, so you can stay tuned for that. From there, that's pretty much going to be it, guys. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.